Good morning, good afternoon for the people who are in China. His Excellency, the Spanish Ambassador to China, Mr. Rafael del Callar, thank you very much for participating in this event. Well, I'm Ramón María Moreno, the new Secretary General of the Spain-China Council Foundation, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to a new edition in digital format of the program of Future Chinese Leaders. Unfortunately, the conditions of the pandemic have still made it impossible to return to the form face-to-face of this program, which is not celebrated in that way since 2019, as it would have been our wish. Let's see, and let's hope that in the near future, especially taking into account that next year will be the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relations China-Spain, let us hope that we can return to the form face-to-face. Well, in this digital meeting, this is a frame in our program, Future Chinese Leaders. We are going to explore economic, scientific, and technological trends in China. And in this edition, we approach that we have defined as new scientific and technological frontiers. We'll talk with 4 outstanding Chinese professionals belonging to various disciplines to analyze the rise of China as a scientific and technological power. As you know, China is already a scientific and technological power in many areas, and as stated in its latest 5-year plan, which is covering in the period 2021-2025, the Asian country considers science and technology policy as a key pillar of its socioeconomic development. Well, after the first edition in 2021, due as well to the pandemic, in which we talked with 6 young Chinese professionals about different sectors, Horizonte China returns with these dialogues with the Chinese leaders of the future. So in this occasion, we gather in a round table for young professionals from what we have called, I repeat, new technological frontiers, areas that will define the future of our societies and in which China aspires to a position of global leadership. So that's in this program, this edition, we are organizing that with the aim of a better understanding China's scientific advances in various fields, and as well as encouraging contact with Spanish counterparts. For this, we have contacted 4 profiles of the following areas: biotechnology, quantum computing, industry 4.0 and robotics, smart energy management, and the panelists are Cao Paotan, Haiyan, Zhang Luhan, and Lu Tawei, but I think that later the moderator, Zígor Aldama, will present them well in a more in a deeper way. So, as I repeat, these are leaders in these sectors. And unfortunately, although initially a face-to-face event was planned in Beijing in collaboration with the Embassy of Spain, this option has finally been discarded due to restrictions on internal mobility that are still in force in China. So it will therefore be an exclusively digital activity. So in any case, I would like to thank the collaborators for these activities, because with the foundation, we count on the collaboration of the Embassy of Spain in Beijing, now with the presence of His Excellency, the Spanish Ambassador, and as well the Center for the Development of Industrial Technology and the office this center has in the Embassy in Beijing, but as well with their office here in Madrid. And we had also counted on the participation in the first part of this program, which has been a closed session with Elcano Royal Institute. So after the closed session, now we are going to have the second part, which is a round table. And the roundtable will be moderated, as I have mentioned, by Zígor Aldama, a journalist of El Correo and Vocento Group, who has been a correspondent in China for almost 20 years. So he knows very well the China and this part of Asia. And the objective is to articulate a debate around the rise of China as a scientific and technological power, analyze his research and development model, and discuss the possibilities of international collaboration. Well, I would like to mention that this program has arisen a great interest because we have lots of people inscribed in this second session. But well, just I finished my presentation, and I would like to give the floor to the Spanish ambassador to China, His Excellency Rafael del Callar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ramon. And it is a real pleasure for me to participate in this year's edition of the Chinese Leaders Program, organized by the Spain-China Foundation, around the topic of new technological frontiers. I am very much aware of the important role the Foundation plays in mobilizing Spanish-Chinese relations, and I congratulate the Foundation for having taken this initiative, especially on an issue which is of crucial importance for both China and Spain. So thank you to the President of the Foundation, Mr. Francisco Riveras, and of course the Secretary General, Mr. Ramon Moreno, as well as to their team, for their efforts organizing this year's edition in a situation of great complexity due to the restrictions caused by the pandemic. And it is frustrating because we have been trying to gather the leaders at the embassy here in Beijing for a couple of years. And I hope that this invitation, which is certainly a standing invitation, will allow you to come as soon as possible to gather your colleagues and your friends at the Spanish embassy. We organized an event with you 3 years ago, but that's too long ago. So we want to organize it again as soon as possible. And I would like also to thank very much the counselor of our embassy in Beijing, Pedro Ginás, and Counselor for Scientific and Technological Affairs, also at our embassy in Beijing, Adrián Gutiérrez Árboles, and the Center for Technological Development and Innovation of our Ministry of Science and Innovation. I'm very happy that Adrián joined the embassy a few months ago, because that has allowed us to create really a new department on scientific, technological, and innovation links with China, which will allow us to develop those links much more widely than before. But my most special thanks, of course, go to the experts participating in this edition of the Chinese Leaders Program, Mr. Zhao Baodan, Mr. Hai Yang, Mrs. Yang Luhan, and Mr. Lu Daowei, whose contribution to this roundtable is going to be extremely important and valuable. And of course, also to the moderator of the debate, Mr. Zígor Aldama, who knows China up and down very well. He has been here for many years, and his continued commitment to foster and to help in this relationship between our two countries, I want to thank you. I want to thank very much. The Chinese Leaders Program is a benchmark in the search for spaces of collaboration between Spain and China. It has developed the contacts between experts of our two countries in numerous fields. And some of the Chinese leaders who participate in this edition have also participated in previous editions. So that allows us to establish a path of continuity that can be very useful to consolidate professional and academic relationships between them and their counterparts in Spain. This edition focuses on new technological frontiers, covering areas which have a far-reaching, transforming potential in our societies. Biotechnology, quantum computing, industrial robotics, and intelligent energy management systems are issues that may have a decisive implication in our lives in a very short time. China's progress in these fields, and generally speaking in science and technology over the last few years, has positioned the country as a world leader in many fields and into a technological power. Spain is also not a minor country, not a minor player at all in this field. It is therefore very important to deepen our understanding of Chinese policies on science and technology, as well as their level of ambition. That will allow us to establish adequate strategies that can identify common interests and synergies. I would like to highlight in this sense the role played by the China-Spain Researchers Network, RICE, formally established in 2017 with the support of this embassy. Our cooperation must certainly benefit both sides and be conducted in a framework which is mutually acceptable. This is the only way in which both our public and private organizations can deepen their cooperation as we desire. In fact, this cooperation between Spain and China in science and innovation has already experienced important advances in the last few years. The Chineca bilateral program and the European Horizon Europe program have been important tools in this context. We are working to define further ways of increasing our relations, and we have an excellent cooperation with the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology. The celebration of the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations next year represents a great opportunity to continue promoting these exchanges. The embassy will, of course, continue to support these efforts, and I am sure that we will find new ways to cooperate with the Foundation with this purpose. So now I just want to say again, thank you very much for the Foundation, for the participants, and very good luck in this with the organization of this event. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for those who are following this event from China. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to this digital roundtable. This is the second edition of a series of dialogues under one of our most important programs, Future Chinese Leaders, in which we try to create a robust connection network between Chinese and Spain professionals in key sectors. We have been running this program since 2016, and more than 100 young Chinese leaders have visited Spain in 13 editions. We haven't been able to welcome here a new promotion since 2019. For 2022, we initially aimed for an event in Beijing, which we conceive as a gathering of participants in former editions and new members of this program. However, current restrictions to internal mobility in China made it impossible. We can only hope that the situation gets better in 2023 and that the much hoped return to normality in international travel from and to China becomes a reality. In the meantime, all we can do is keep fostering dialogue by all means available to us. This is the main purpose of this roundtable. I think it is fair to say that we live difficult and challenging times globally. It is our responsibility to contribute to efforts to promote mutual understanding and create communication channels with China. This is the core goal of the Spain-China Council Foundation, to facilitate the honest, productive conversation between civil societies in both countries so that we can better prepare to tackle complex and demanding challenges. Today, we will be discussing China's science and tech outlook with a stellar lineup of young professionals belonging to fields like quantum computing, smart energy, robotics, and biotechnology. They are all part of China's great drive to become a scientific and technological power. This drive does not belong anymore to the future, but is a reality today. We will discuss with them the particularities of China's science and tech model, the challenges it faces in the next few decades, and the opportunities for international cooperation between governments, academia, and companies. I want to thank all of you for sharing their insights with us. I also want to express our gratitude to the Spanish Embassy in China and to Spain Center for the Development of Industrial Technology, whose cooperation in arranging this event has been essential. Without further ado, I'd like to invite the moderator, journalist Zígor Aldama, to start the debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Riveras indeed, and thank you also to the Foundation for trusting me another year moderating this panel of experts that are going to discuss where China is going in the technology, how it has reached the point where it is at now, and a range of other topics. And I'd like to have a brief introduction of the four people talking today with me. I'm not even going to try to explain what they do because I don't understand it myself. So I'll just be saying a brief few things about them, and maybe they will explain a bit more about what they do in the coming minutes. We have an hour to talk about all this, and we will start. Well, I will start with Baodan Cao, who is a principal investigator at the College of Optical Science and Engineering of Zhejiang University, and has been named among MIT Technology Review's Innovators Under 35 list for China. We have also Luhan Yang, who is co-founder and current CEO at Qihan Bio technology in Hangzhou, and works with genome engineering techniques to develop novel cell therapies and organs for transplantations, which sounds really exciting, actually. Hai Yang is the head of the International Strategical Development of Tecnalia for the Greater China region, and director of both the Nanjing Eurosmart Intelligent Technology Research Institute and the Nanjing Overseas Innovation Mirror Lab for Spain. And finally, we have Dawei Lu, who is an associate professor at the Department of Physics at the Southern University of Science and Technology of China, and an expert in quantum technology. Without further ado, I'd like to ask about the reasons behind China's lead in the third industrial revolution, because I had the chance to interview economist Jeremy Rifkin, who has been working with the Chinese leadership a few days ago. And he argued that after missing on the first and second industrial revolutions, China wants to lead the third. And I'd like to ask, and this is a question for all the panelists here, why do you think this happens and how successful you think that the country can be? I think I'd like to ask Baodan first. So Baodan, this is a question for you now.
Okay, thank you. I think the main reasons for China to increasingly contribute to the third industrial revolution are the large scale of Chinese economy and the government-directed massive efforts for developing infrastructures related to communications, transportation, and energy. I think the philosophy behind this is focus our strengths on one big goal at a time. And I think the large population and human capital base are another advantage of China. Even though the percentage of researchers over the population in China may be not very large, but China probably has the largest number of researchers. That's my view.
Okay, let's go to Luhan. What do you think?
Yes, Zígor. First, I'd like to thank the foundation for inviting me to be here. It's a real pleasure. And I also have to say that although I'm not an authentic football fan, but I applaud to the 7-0 score between the Spanish team and Costa Rica. So best luck to the Spanish team. And to your question, Zígor, I think there are multiple reasons for the rise of the Chinese technology, especially in the biotech domain, which I'm working at. The first one is a huge market. The second one is government support. So you can look at the percentage of the government funding allocated to basic research, translational research, and the increase rate is pretty high in the dramatic contrast to what happened in Europe and in the US. I think that play a big factor. The third one, which is relevant to our industry, is the improvement of the regulatory system. So the Chinese version of FDA, the NMPA, rebranded itself since 2018 and really facilitate the clinical trial registration and drug approval, and thus encourage innovation. And the fourth one, I think, is access to the capital market. With the 18A registration policy in the Hong Kong market, a lot of biotech without revenue or profit can get listed. That got people excited and incubate a lot of early stage biotech. And the last one, but not the least one, is the high quality and sizable pool of talents, ranging from the basic discovery, translational, and industry development. And all those factors play together really make the rise of the biotech in the last few years.
Thank you so much, Luhan. We will. I mean, you pointed out many of the key factors that we will talk about a bit later on. So I'll give the word to the man now, and I'd like to ask Hi. What do you think? Could you please add something to what your colleague said?
I think it's first, I want to thank you for the invitation. Thanks to the foundation. I'm very excited. And for the question, in fact, I think it's a very important and big question. There's no easy answer to it. But if we go to the fundamentals, I think if you have a 1.4 billion population, you get them organized, educated, provide the infrastructure that's needed. People will work, people will invent. So I think that's basically you need a stable society and with a very good policy orientation. And beyond that, I think there was some particularity about the Chinese economy provide this basis. First, I will see that you have to look at the industry sector in China. I think it's the most complete industry sector system in the world. Recognized, I mean, if you look at the category of all different kinds of industries, all of them exist in China. This kind of landscape, I think, is one of the kind in the world environment. And thanks to that, I mean, you have one language. You have people can easily communicate with each other. So I think you can speed up quite a lot about the collaboration, I mean, in general sense, between companies and between individuals. So that I think providing that base is very important, because I will give an example. For example, in a lot of different sectors, you can find clusters of industries in some village, or in, I mean, you can find in some region, you can find hundreds or thousands of companies or garages working on similar subjects, similar sectors. And then you can understand, I mean, if we consider as a network, the exchange, the internal exchange rate are so high, and if you need to find your suppliers, it's quite easy. I mean, you can find multiple suppliers and you can make the test, and that really, I think, contribute to the acceleration of the development of the technology. Beyond that, I was talking about the industry, but if you look at the talent pool, well, many of our guests mentioned, China. I think I look at the numbers. In 2021, 70,000 Chinese students go abroad to study, and I think the number of returning it's 1 million in 2021. So okay, some of them stay abroad, some of them come back, but I think that is very important for the young people to learn, to understand how things are going on worldwide. And when they come back, clearly it's not only they bring the know-how and the understanding of different sectors, also they bring their network, and that I think is very important reason for this development. And beyond that, I think also China is very complex, but on the other hand, I think in different sector, China more or less started from very low level in the past, and it could avoid a lot of mistakes that the more developed advanced country made in the past. So I mean, if you're drawing a picture on a blank paper, maybe you can better do the architecture design. You can better express your inspirations, right? So I think that from there, China can take a lot of advantage of the developed world. And beyond that, if you look at the size of the market, I mean, it's not only domestic market for domestic companies. It's for everyone. I mean, it's for US, for European, for Japanese, different companies. Most of the leading industry companies have their headquarters or branches in China or manufacturing sites in China. And there, I think Chinese workers or Chinese tenants are working on the real subject, and they're learning from the important players in the ground. So I think all of this reason accumulated make an ecosystem that can accelerate the economic development. More or less, I think there were, if we continue, there were a lot of reasons. I think that's the main that I would like to highlight now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hai. And Da Wei, I mean, you have a tough time now because so much has been said already. But let's hear your take, Da Wei.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the foundation, the organizer, and particularly you, Zígor Aldama, to give me the opportunity to speak here. In fact, as you said, I agree with all of the opinions by the other participants. So actually, you know, what they have said is what I want to say. But I still want to mention 2 points. Since you have said, you know, China was a lot behind in the first and the second industrial revolution, I guess that is part of. I think the reason is part of that we were still in the, you know, feudal society. We don't have a strong government at that time. And for the third industrial revolution, you know, we were led by the communists, and the continuous support from the government, in fact, gave us, you know, the best environment for research, for development, and for future applications. And as far as I know, and I think, you know, I do quantum computing, and I think quantum computing is one of the signs in the third industrial revolution. And this is a subject that is, you know, it can, I guess it cannot be succeeded by a person or university or even a company. So it's a nationwide project. And I think this is the advantage of, you know, the communists, like the government can, you know, gather a lot of young talents together and to aim for the same goal. And I think this is a good point for the third industrial revolution. And another point is, as Hai said, you know, in the last 20 years, we just sent the young people overseas to study, you know, techniques, study science. And now, you know, with the rapid growth of China's economics, we can attract those people back, like Baodan, like Lu Han, and like Hai, and like me, of course. And we don't need to worry about the daily life, you know, in China. That's totally different from the case of, you know, 30 or 40 years ago. Now, you know, we can just relax and do research. You can do fundamental research. You can, you know, you can try to convert it to applications, and you can do whatever you want. And I think that is a key factor that China may catch up with the third industrial revolution. I don't want to say like we want to lead the third revolution, but we just want to be, you know, one of the pioneers in this revolution. That is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Da Wei. And you mentioned quantum computing. It is indeed one of the fields where China is actually, you know, ahead, or at least on parallel with other powers. No, I mean, we talk about big data, artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, genetic engineering, space exploration, even, right? And these are just a few of the fields where China wants to maybe take the lead, maybe just you know, be on par with the rest. I'm going to have another question to all of you, and that is, where do you think China will concentrate its innovations, right? And why? Why certain areas are more prominent? And I would like to give you the chance now to talk about your own projects or your own fields? Because honestly, I don't know anything about quantum computing. I don't know anything about genetic engineering and so on. So that way, since you were the last to speak, and that was the hardest to add something, I'll give you the question to you first.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Quantum computing, I think you can just think quantum computing as a new type of computers. You know, the main goal of a computer is to calculate the task as fast as you can, right? But you know, in the big data era currently, and the data, you know, it is so huge that I can give you an example. Like if you have a database and it contains, say, 2 to the power of 80, you know, labels or items, and you want to search one out of the database, and you use all the power of all classical computers from the world, you cannot do it in a year. It's hard to imagine, right? But that's the capacity of the current, you know, classical computational power. But with a quantum computer, you can do this, I guess, in probably 1 second. So that is a huge improvement. And another reason is that, you know, when, you know, now we use like the transistors to be the CPUs of classical computers, and the size is very close to the atomic scale. And in the atomic scale, you have to consider the heat effect. You have to consider, you know, the Moore's law is going to fail. And so you have to take into account the effect of quantum mechanics. So in other words, you need to develop the new type of computing in the quantum world. So that is quantum computing. And if you have a quantum computing, what you can do now, like what I said before, so you can search an item from a database very quickly. And moreover, you know, you can factorize a big number, you know, in instance. So and that is also a key problem in the current society, because for classical computers, you cannot factorize, say, a 300 digital number. If you want to factorize that number, so you need, I mean, probably I forgot the accurate time period, but it's like 200,000 years. So that's not possible. So because of the difficulty in factoring large numbers, so people use this security system to, you know, in your banks, in your military service, and in some financial institutions. But with a quantum computer, you can do that, you know, in 1 second. So that's a breakdown of the classical security system. And or we can say that if one owns a quantum computer, so your bank account will become transparent in front of, you know, his face. So
that sounds scary, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds scary. So that's why, like, the government would like to invest a lot to develop the universal quantum computers, and that is what we are doing now. But of course, it is very hard, and it requires a lot of money.
Okay,
that's my field. Okay,
Luhan, you do also something that is, I mean, sounds amazing to me. So I don't know how advanced China is in all these genetic therapies and engineering. Can you tell us about it?
Sure, Zígor. I think it's an interesting question you asked, like how Chinese government prioritize where to prioritize their resources and energy in terms of the innovation. It's actually my first time to think about this from the government perspective. The first one came to my mind is the impact to the society. For example, I think when it comes to food security, I think Chinese government put a lot of energy, even in the gene editing domain or synthetic biology. For example, there was a innovation that are artificial synthesis of starch from carbon dioxide. it's like artificial photosynthesis. I found that's amazing. That came out of the Chinese Academy of Science. And I think probably food security is pretty core to the interest of the people here. And in terms of the pharmaceutical application, you are absolutely right, Zígor, that gene therapy and cell therapy might be one of the focus, probably the focus for different countries. When we think about drug, the first generation of the drug is more about small molecular. Then the second generation is the antibody, recombinant protein. But so as a new generation of the drug, it's alive. It can do multiple functions. So that we can envision that's a future of the drug development. And the technology is pretty new, so that everyone is at the same level. So China has an opportunity to really concentrate resource on and catch up with other countries because of the technology is pretty new. Everyone are at similar level, and we envision that would be the future.
Thank you, Yang. Fields that actually add value to the society or are important to for the advancement of society. That's an interesting point. Badan, your turn. How your field can actually, do something for society.
Thank you, Zígor, for the question. The field I'm working on is perovskite optoelectronics. Perovskite is a new type of semiconductor materials. So it's an emergent material. It has a crystal structure of ABX3, which is also called perovskite structure. That's why it's named perovskite. This is a magical, wonderful material because it has a very high tolerance. It has many possibilities. We can do many things with this material because it's not only one type of material. ABX3, it can be a lot of, it's a group of material, I have to say. And due to their excellent optoelectronic properties, it has applications in many areas like photovoltaics, solar cells, and the light emitting diodes, which I'm working on the area. So for PV, it's the most popular clean energy, and for light emitting diodes, it's for the display, like our mobile phones and the screens we are using every day. So, and I think for material science and chemistry is also the area that China can take lead, because the number of researchers and scientific research articles of China has risen to the first place in recent years in the world. With the continuous improvement of both quantity and quality, China keeps increasing its contribution in these areas and technology. For example, in our area, Chinese researchers are actively taking the lead, I think. Not only the efficiency records are regularly achieved in China now, but also the underlying mechanisms are being revolved by Chinese researchers. Yes.
Okay, and let's finish with Hai with this second question. Hai, what's your take? Hi, you are on mute. Please turn on your microphone.
Yes, okay, sorry. I'm a robotist by training, so I will talk about it just to take example as robots. In fact, industry robots exist during already many years, 3-4 decades. And in fact, if you look at the basic technology, it's related to the motor control, to the material science regarding to the controller, to gearbox and things like that. I think from there, China still have a lot of work to do because of those subjects need a lot of accumulated past know-how and experience. And because the Chinese market is an open market, most of the time you can purchase those things from the foreign companies, the leading ones. In fact, when I say foreign one, it's not like China and the foreign world. I mean, in particular things you can find in particular country. Not every country have all the technology combined, right? And so there, I think the Chinese industry face a dilemma in the sense that if you redo those things, probably you need to spend a lot of money. But even you do it, it will not be as good as what is already existing in the market from the leading companies. So I think that's one of the reasons why things on this side is not moving as satisfying as everyone in the Chinese sector at least wishes. But if you look at the new development of robots, in terms of AI, in terms of vision integrated solution for guiding robots, I think there China is more or less at the leading, I don't know, leading the top level in terms of research and also in terms of application to the industry. Because I mean the development of AI, I think that's another subject, but they're closely related to robots, right? So if you look at the Chinese market, when you want to put a robot in the factory, if the factory is very well organized and everything is in a good format, in a good formality, it's easier for traditional robot to be used. But in the Chinese market, in fact, the factory are quite diverse. You have a very high standard, very advanced factory. You have a very primitive factory form. So when you want to put the robot there, in fact, it's pose even higher technology requirement to the robot manufacturer or the integrator. So there, I think, provide a lot of real need and application examples for the researchers or for the engineers to tackle. There, I think, even in many cases, there was scenario and the demand from the Chinese factories don't exist in Europe or in US, because I think simply as the reason I mentioned before, because the sector chains, the industry chains are so large in China. You have all kind of scenarios that you need to answer that requirement. And from there, I think I will take example. When we talk about robot, we talk about industrial robot. But if you talk about humanoid robot or animal-like robot, for example, the most advanced robots that we can see, probably people will take example of Boston Dynamics. The Sport Mini is quite cute, quite a high-performance four-legged robot, and they have been doing the research during, I think, 30 years more or less, and they released some product in order to be used in, I don't know, in industries. Which industry? For the construction side and for facilitating those kind of tasks. Not very far before, a Chinese company released the product. Okay, similar, looks like similar. I don't want to evaluate the performance for now, but if you look at the price, I think it's the US product is 70,000 euro, and the Chinese one, they put the price tag as 2,000 euro. Okay, so you have to understand. I mean, we have to understand why this happened. I think if you look at the disruptive innovation, I think high tech need to land. High tech need to land to different scenario, to different place where it can solve problems. And if you are able to lower the cost of high tech unit, to a level that a different scenario can test, can accelerate the iteration, I think probably that will give a lot of insight and guidance for the researchers to continue to move on. So I think there in robotics, I think in the near future, we could see really a rise of robot advancement in China in this sense. Beyond that, I also think that we, thanks to the development of AI and all kind of different technology like communication technology like 5G, I really think that robotics will have a very big jump into the future. Because for now, the problem for the robot to be applied in the daily life or more spreadly is about the cost. That's one reason. Another reason is the kind of thing that the robot can do because it's not intelligent enough. But if you look at the hardware cost, comparing a robot with an automobile, with a car, maybe in a car you have 10,000 of parts, complete complex system. A robot probably only have thousands of parts. So it's a different degree of complexity. But if you look at the price, probably they are similar. So if we are able to enlarge the field of application, we will see a bigger advance in this industry. So that's what I take one example as a robot sector. I think there were many other subjects we can argue that technology are really moving fast at this period, and China is really taking advantage of this good opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Hai. I'm going to, after this round of introductory questions, I'm going to go through, the different topics that we've talked about, and in the sake of time, I'll be directing these questions one by one. If any of you want to add something, there is a little hand that you can raise there, and I will see that you want to add something, and I'll talk to you then. Anyway, one of the things that I think all of you mentioned was talent creation and attraction, right? Most of you have studied or worked abroad and chose to go back to China. And we all know talent is scarce today throughout the world. And some say that we are even living on a cold war for talent, right? So I'd like to know, why did you decide to go back to China? If I'm not wrong, there you will be called something like highway, like could be translated a bit like sea turtles, right? So, Luhan, tell me about your case, and why do you think people are coming back to China after having this international experience, while not so many years ago people will choose to stay abroad?
Oh yes, I think like one special situation about our generation is most of us are a single child in the family, so that to be close to the family or to be responsible and taking care of the parents is one of the consideration. Of course, like the food and the intimacy to the culture also play some intangible role. Beyond that, I think the biggest reason would be the opportunity. As Da Wei mentioned, like we have the opportunity to be one of the pioneers in the field to chart a new route, how to build a biotech and how to run a lab in the academic setting and how to do translational research. And those opportunities are not that easy to find in the US and Europe. So I think that's a reason for me, as well as what I observed from my friends.
And I'd like to know, what are the differences, between the way research is done in the West and in China? And I'll direct this question to Baodan. Baodan, tell me, what are the differences that you see, or the most remarkable differences you see?
Hi, thanks for the question. So your question is the difference
between the way, the way that research or study is conducted in China and in the West, because we have an idea that Chinese education is still not on par with the West, that is very boxed, and maybe that idea is wrong, but I would like to know what is the difference with the Western one.
Okay, I think in China, research normally means not-for-profit fundamental research in universities and government-funded research institutions. But job means working for companies with specific commercial goals. I think there's a clear division between the two. And the connections can also happen through industry-supported research programs for the universities. In the West, as far as I know, I think smoother connections have been built for a long time. The R&D departments in high-tech companies may include research in fundamental science and early-stage innovations, which are not related to direct profit. But for me, I think some Chinese tech giants are starting to do similar things now. For example, Alibaba's Damo Academy actively funds fundamental research in computer science, also including quantum computing. I hope this answers the question.
Okay, so and another thing that China often uses to show that it has improved a lot in research and so on is patents. The number of patents, right? So high. How relevant is this actually to measure the degree of innovation and development of a country?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. In fact, I very often think about this. I think maybe it's a personal view, but I find someone famous have similar view as me. It's Elon Musk. He published, he gave away all the patent that Tesla has. I think for drug development or for some more long period research activities, patents essential, because you spend a lot of energy to develop, try to make approval, try to make it as a product to the market. Once it becomes a product, maybe the production cost is very low. So there, I think a patent may make a lot of sense. On the other hand, in many other industries, very often, okay, you have a brilliant idea and you want to get a patent to protect it. I think it's a practice that you can do, but I think very often I talk with my Spanish colleagues. I tell them, don't. As an individual, as a system that we should respect the patent system. But as an individual, if you want to really create your impact to the society, don't only rely on the kind of patent protection, because in the end, it's complex. Even you have a patent, if really someone infringes your patent, you have to go against them with lawsuit and things like that. Huawei, Samsung, they are all fighting each other for patent, and they're licensing each other for patent. I think it's not only about innovation, it's a more business oriented, or not oriented, but at least the business side take a very important portion of the consideration. And if you look at the patent, a lot of patents are useful, a lot of patents are not really useful or applied to the market. So I think when we look at those numbers, if you look at the numbers of patents that China apply, probably it's already the biggest in the world, probably recently, right? And even, it's the same for the scientific publication. Probably I saw some articles this year, China becomes the #1 scientific paper producer in the world. But okay, what is a good way to evaluate the outcome of those patents and the research? I think that's among a lot of important questions to be answered for everyone, not only for China, right? So actually, I think there were counterpart. There were drawbacks of this only looking at the patent and the publication. In fact, if you go to the university and if you're a young professor, you want to apply for programs, or you want to upgrade your grade in the research system, probably you need to have a lot of publications, a lot of patents and things like that. I'm not sure that is really aligned with the concept of innovation, which is sometimes very difficult to predict by those KPIs. So I more or less I have that feeling. So I know there were numbers that are showing China is leading in those KPIs, but I think we need to be cautious about the conclusion that we get from there. Yeah.
That way, in the West, often people believe that China just copies things and makes them cheaper. How outdated is that?
It is a hard question, actually. Please give me a second, like to think about like how to make
Sure.
an answer.
You know that, right? We often think that China started, copying the Western technology and getting the technology. There is a lot of controversy also with intellectual property transfers and so on. So I'd like to know if this view is actually very outdated, and China has taken, maybe that was a first step, and then now it's in a different era of transformation where it can also innovate and create new things.
Okay, so such a kind of view, I want to say like it's not completely outdated. So many years ago, so we were not behind the world, so we need to study like the advanced techniques, have to, just like you said, copy and paste and try to improve our technology in that way. And but now it is much better. I know that how to say, because first of all, so like in quantum computing, you cannot copy or steal the technologies from, say, US and EU anymore, because the policy is totally different. Like it's hard to get the most advanced techniques from the Western companies or universities anymore. And now, so we are of course trying to do almost everything by ourselves. Sorry, it's too hard for me to answer this. So I guess
don't worry that way. Look,
I can leave the question to the others.
Yes, let's the hot potato goes to Luhan now, who raised the hand, and then Hai also.
In quantum computing, so it's different. So we do everything by ourselves. So I don't want to comment on the other areas.
Sure, Luhan will give us her take now.
Yeah, let me save Dawei. I think Dawei has been moderate. I think things are changing right now, not because of the behavior, but because of the motivation. For example, the last generation of the biotech, so people succeed based on quick follower, me too, me better. And a lot of companies get listed or have a product because they monitor what's going on in the US and quickly catch up throughout the development process. However, the market start to punish this kind of behavior. First, our insurance system couldn't afford or couldn't justify the valuation of those companies, because even we have a huge population, but the per patient cost is pretty low. So if you have a very generic drug that everyone can copy, then you couldn't succeed. So the only way a new generation of biotech can succeed in China is you make a first-in-class and best-in-class medicine, and that get commercialized in the US and Europe. And from that particular market, you can have a commercial success, then can justify the high valuation of a company, no matter where you are based at. Because of that, innovation has been encouraged. I hope that
Hi also raised the hand. Hi, go ahead.
As you said, the copycat problem in China. I think there we need to again understand China is complex. I mean, it's not that all Chinese copy exist. Of course, there exist companies that copies, and it's the same problem for the foreign companies as the same as the Chinese companies. So I think that there. I mean, patent is always related with economic impact. Very often when you have a cheap copy, it is not even one company. Maybe it's just a small carriage company, and maybe there are hundreds of them doing that. So economically, it's not making sense to go lawsuit after all of them, right? So I think that there, economically speaking, how much this copy behavior in the past influence the real market of the owner of the patent, you have to evaluate. I'm not talking about is right or wrong. I'm talking about the economic impact of it, and also, I mean, more and more as we are doing a lot of research and innovation with different companies, with the Chinese company. I think this also become a general problem, not only for foreign company, for any innovator in the sector. And I think the legal system or the legal practice in this aspect, I do think that it need to be perfected in China, so that the economic cost of going after a lawsuit about the patent should be lower. The process should be easier. But I don't think that's a general guidance or mindset of the counterfeit of everything. So I think that's my feeling about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We are talking about copycats, sensitive issues. There is a question also among our audience, and I was prepared to ask about this. Right, Donald Trump has started a trade war and also a tech war with China, and Joe Biden didn't backtrack on that. So I want to ask, how is that affecting China's ability to innovate, and how relevant is that to explain China's push towards self-sufficiency? Baodan, you didn't talk much. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Zígor. I think the overall such sanctions should have negative, but probably short-term impacts on China's tech development. As the majority of the Chinese high-tech industry is a result of globalization, I have to say. But I think in the long term, such sanctions encourage independent research and strengthen the foundation of the entire tech industries. And as David said, we now have to do everything by ourselves. And for the copycat, I also want to comment on that. Because in areas like material science and chemistry, I think accumulated knowledge and experience are very important. So it is true that I think it's also said that in the most cases, Chinese research is not the first to do some small field, like the perovskite optoelectronics is a Japanese scientist, Miyasaka, who did the first perovskite solar cell. But I think the number of researchers working on this area in China is like 10 times of that in other countries. So we, I think we not doing to make it the cheapest, but we can do the best. And we are also doing new things because there are, in all areas, I think there are some most difficult problems or challenges. We are now working on these challenges. We also want to be some first. Yeah.
There is also some reluctance in the West to accept technology that comes from China. Dawei mentioned that quantum technology makes our bank accounts transparent, which is not very reassuring. And we have been seeing, you know, controversy with security issues. It happened with Huawei and the US. Some people here have, you know, some questions about the security issues with Chinese using Chinese technology. Hi, what would you tell these people to reassure them that Chinese technology is safe, that there is no backdoors in everything? I mean, things that we use often, you know, like telephones and mobile phones. I mean, you know, your fridge and so on. Your microphone, hi, please.
Thank you. I think the question is to be answered for everyone to any big company worldwide. I think the same methodology should apply, and no matter it's for Chinese company or if it's a US company or for any other company. So there's no easy answer. I mean, technology is so advanced. Is that possible to make some backdoors in some chips? I think yes. How can you examine that? I think there were a lot of experts can do that. If you can do it for Apple's product, you can do it with Huawei's product. I just think it's not a particular question for one company or for a Chinese company. But beyond that, there were a lot of, as you said, I mean, even the sanctions or this kind of thing is not only about technologies, right? It's a politics, it's a geopolitics. It's a lot of mindset behind that. Okay, I think there were much more smarter people than us to figure out what is the best way to do. So I would also like to comment on this sanction issues. I quite agree with about that in the sense that my personal view is that I just believe that in the globalization, in a collaborative environment, we will all together be stronger to face the big challenge. Okay, so I mean, what does that mean, sanction? I mean, China will always be there. Okay, it will continue to move faster or slower, but it's not a short-term play, it's a long-term play, and it's better that we play it collaboratively. Okay, if you sanction, for example, the most significant current impact is on chips, right? And there, I think even in robots, as the example I told, it's the same. When you can buy it, you don't do it. If you cannot buy it, you have to do it. Can you do it? Of course you can do it. It's just about the time, right? So I just think that from a long-term consideration, it's not for me. It's not very effective way. I mean, you can look at the worldwidely, the sanction didn't really work. I mean, for any big or small countries. So I really believe that if we can join the force all together moving forward, there were so many different challenges that we need to deal with. I personally have an example. I remember that when I was a high school student, in the same class, you want to be the best. And you have the colleagues ask you how to do this, how to do that. You don't want to tell them because you want to be the best. You want to be the best in the class. But it's the right view, but it's a really limited view. After many years, you see that if you help each other, you will become much better, each one of you, right? Your life is much more than just passing the exam at the moment. So I think we need to have a broad, inclusive view to move together to solve the global challenge altogether.
That way, I'm not going to tell you my bank account. Anyway, what I'm going to do is to ask you something that you may also find a bit hard to answer. You mentioned before at the beginning that the government, the Chinese government, plays a big role in actually advancing China's development in technology. But this also carries a weight when you are facing the rest of the world, and the rest of the world see this as a threat. How important do you think this is? I mean, how important you think the role of the state, involvement of the state actually is in the fears that, you know, the rest of the world or some people in the rest of the world have towards Chinese technology?
Well, it's quite challenging question. So I don't know, like why you claim that the rest of the world is in fear status, like. Actually,
well,
I don't quite agree with that.
Okay, there are governments, you know, like I mentioned before, banning Chinese technology. We just saw, for example, London ban all Chinese cameras from their systems, and that is also because they do think that there is a certain threat.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about another story. So it's not about me. So when I was in Canada during my postdoctoral period, so my supervisor, so he's a Canadian, so he's a pioneering scientist in quantum computing, and you know sometimes I just talk to him like I want to contact him by Gmail, and he said I never use any Google services. So I was quite surprised. I said, why? So you know, every student here, every member in the group use Google, use Dropbox, you know, use a lot of apps, and you know, they were developed by the US, right? And just my supervisor, you know, the Canadian said because they had backdoors there, so they are not safe, and so you know, they are a threat for me. And that is the opinion from Canadian scientists. So I guess like it's not because of like we have like what you say, like the backdoors or you know some security problems in our you know products. I guess it's just because China, I mean because you know we are developing quite rapidly, like and like you know we are starting to you know possess the market, the majority of the market in some areas, and some other people just feel you know that's not fair, and then so they have some views that you know we have to abandon your products because of some you know security problems or some price problems or something else, or you know the intellectual property problems. So I in fact I don't agree with what you have mentioned just now. Sorry.
No problem that way. This is a debate, and therefore it's perfectly normal not to agree with each other. If not, it wouldn't be a debate. Anyway, it's not my personal opinion. It's just we are seeing you know these sanctions and these bans because of. At least that's the excuse to settle. I mean those bans, right? Anyway, we are running out of time, but I don't want to finish without asking about another hot topic. Since we are here online and we still can't meet in person, I need to ask how zero COVID restrictions are actually hampering Chinese development, because I see personally how these restrictions that are in place for already 3 years, it's very difficult to travel to China, and a lot of people, especially foreigners, are leaving the country. So I'd like to know how do you think this is going to affect you know the development of research and other issues now related to technology. Luhan, please go ahead.
Zígor, you are very good at asking those irritating questions. But I'll tell you a story too. So my professor, my PhD advisor is American. And he's a prominent geneticist based in Harvard. And he quarantined himself for 3 years at home. And he purchased some PCR machine so that whenever his family went out, he will conduct a PCR test himself before he can have dining with them. So I found this quite interesting. Then I asked him, why do you do so, George? Like, you are perfectly healthy and he's vaccinated. So he had 2 Moderna, 3 Pfizer, and he also tested on himself some DIY vaccine through nozzle distribution. So he's well vaccinated. And I also invited him, you should come to China if you want to have such a life. China can provide you more freedom. So he shared with me his view. I found it fascinating. So he mentioned to me that he feels it's irresponsible to have a policy that don't control the spread of the virus, especially considering the mutation rate. That's his personal view. And I think it's pretty hard question for the Chinese government, when to open, how to open, given our vaccination rate, how effective is Chinese vaccine, and how crowded is our population density, especially in the cities. So I think it's a hard decision to make. And we'll see. I still have the faith in the government that will make a sound decision for the people.
Okay, Jan. Any other volunteer to give some final remarks? I'm sorry if some of the questions were a bit challenging, but feel free to, have some closing remarks if you wish to.
May I?
Sure.
So I didn't have the opportunity to answer the question of sanction. So it's pretty heartbreaking for me to see how the world evolved over the last few years. So I had been very proud to be a Chinese, and I feel understanding the West and China can be a big advantage for me and for my peers to make an impact. So the current system is pretty sad for me, and I believe I can speak for my fellow colleagues in this panel. I feel for the healthcare, it may be the last straw on the back of the camel. At least for us, our enemy is not each other or different country. Our enemy is cancer, COVID, organ shortage, autoimmune diseases. So I hope on that part we can unite as a group. And in fact, at least for our practice, the scientific part, we have very close interaction with the colleagues in the US and Europe, ranging from academia, industry, regulatory body, as well as contracted manufacturer centers. So I feel at least in this community, we are still pretty close. The ideology has been put aside. Of course, there would be some political risk down the road we can anticipate, but we truly hope collaboration and communication can continue. And we believe that is the name of the game, the collaboration, international collaboration.
Let's hope people is taking notes and taking a special note on that collaboration and not confrontation, because I completely agree that that's what we need. And well, I didn't have time to ask about climate change and how China is pushing renewable energies and being one of the main actors worldwide with solar panels and so many other elements. I don't know if any of you wants to say something else. We are out of time. If you do, please raise your hand now and speak. Otherwise, yeah, hi, please go ahead.
I just cannot get this away without saying something. I really like the topic that we are talking, even, I mean, some challenging ones. I think, I mean, I'm now still working for the Spanish Leading Research Center, and my task is to help to transform and to create the impact of the result that we did in Europe to put it in the Chinese market. So it's not an easy task, okay? Okay, my point is that I more or less see the situation, and I mean the different kind of companies and the mindset. But I still think it's a worthy task to be carried on, because I'm excited to encourage, to facilitate the exchanges, scientific or technology exchanges between the two sides. And I think from this point of view, I would like to just to remind that let's try to do some harder thinking, try to understand things, complex things. It's really not easy to answer complex questions by good or not good, right or wrong. I think it's very complex. The COVID question is it's a typical one. I mean, Chinese government did a lot of work. Okay, and if you look at the impact of economy or the impact of the health of the population, which is important, which one is less, it's not a simple question to evaluate. I think people trying their best to be best, okay, no matter for the government or for every company or for the individuals. I just hope that if we have a Spanish audience, I think Spain lack a lot of collaboration and exchange with China in terms of industry and in terms of technology. I don't have time to share with you the numbers, but I think, for example, the Chinese students in Spain, if you compare it with in France or in Italy or in UK or in Germany, it's really not in the same level. If you look at the industry, the China is a huge market. Why not take it? And when I have a colleague talk about all the partners in Spain talk about China, they always talk about China, but as the word China. No, what is China for you in your particular case, in this particular sector, in this particular product? Don't think about take the whole China market, right? Just think about, okay, who is your partner? How we do? And yes, it's complicated, but it's worthy to try. I think there are many other European companies and countries. My feeling is that they did a better than Spain on this, and I'm working on this. I hope that we can generate really a positive impact, and through this kind of exchange and communication, I think it will be really helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, Hai. We'll leave it there. Let's hope for more cooperation, like you said. More cooperation brings also more understanding. And with more understanding, there is less confrontation normally. It's been a pleasure, Hai. It's been a pleasure, Baodan, Dawei, and Luhan, to talk to all of you. And for a very brief closing remark, I'll give back the word to Ramon Maria Moreno from the Foundation. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Zígor. Thank you for moderating this interesting roundtable with these good four panelists. They are leaders in their sectors. I mean, biotechnology, quantum computing, industrial robotics, and smart energy management. I think this debate has helped us at least to understand a bit more about China's science and technology policy. And let's hope that, as you have mentioned, there will be a much better collaboration. In any case, just to thank all the different participants. I mean, the Embassy of Spain, represented by the Ambassador Rafael Descallar and Pedro Ginás, the Center for Development of Industrial Technology, represented by Adrián Gutiérrez, also the participation of Elcano Royal Institute. And let's hope, and of course, my special thanks to the four panelists. Thank you for taking part in this edition online of this program. And let us hope that next year we will be able to organize a face-to-face edition of this program of Future Leaders, and especially in the framework of the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Spain and China. So thank you, all the participants. Thank you very much. And we hope to see all of you next year, especially, if possible, a face-to-face debate and a face-to-face program. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening for all of you and a good day for the rest of the people who are here in Spain. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.